Let's get some perspective from the recruiting angle here and bring in Director of Scouting for 24/7 Sports, Adam Finkelstein. And Adam, I'm curious about the impact. What does this mean from that standpoint for this Nova program?
Well, I think even before you talk about recruiting, it becomes about retention because right now the key date is May 1st, and that's the last date that players have to go in the portal. So I think one of the reasons why you see Kyle Neptune come in with this immediate transition is because they've got to retain the roster they have. And as soon as they get to that, then it's about retaining their current recruiting class. Of course, that starts with Cam Whitmore. He's a McDonald's All-American from the state of Maryland, an area where Villanova has had really a terrific pipeline in recent years, a 6'6" power athlete with improving skill. He is a gem, a five-star prospect of that class. So they're going to want to keep him on board. And then there's Mark Armstrong, who is a point guard from New York, and Brendan Housen, a shooter from the state of Texas. So really, it's about retaining the players you have in the program from day one. I think there's a lot of speculation right now that when Kyle comes in, he will retain the exact same staff that Jay Wright had, allowing them to maintain that continuity with the current roster and the recruiting class. If he can do that, it will go a long way towards developing the type of early momentum that he's going to need, very similar to what Jon Scheyer did last summer when the news came out that he was going to succeed Coach K. He needed to get a couple of key recruits to build credibility on the recruiting trail. I think for Kyle Neptune, those key recruits are the players who are already in the program and already committed to the program.
Adam, we just saw a tournament in which you see some players that have played with 4 different programs, some with 3. It's becoming more and more common in college basketball. That transfer portal is spinning continuously. You have the name, image, likeness as well. The job as a big-time college basketball coach has changed drastically over the last decade or so. How much does that impact some of these veteran coaches like a Jay Wright?
Yeah, I think it's significant. I mean, just to reiterate what Gary and Coach were saying earlier, it really does change the job. And the general sentiment you get from college coaches across all levels right now is the job has never been more challenging. And listen, no one's going to cry for these college coaches. I mean, they live an exciting lifestyle. They get to do what they love. But there's more pressure on that side of the bench than I think anyone can imagine unless they've been there. And to always be on call and to always be in this transition state where you're having to re-recruit your players. And remember, Villanova has been largely unscathed by the transfer portal, at least relative to most teams in college basketball. So they've really been ahead of it for the most part. The comparison I would make to this, again, I would draw a parallel with Duke. Just like I said, Jon Scheyer had to get the ball rolling, as Kyle Neptune's going to. If you recall when players started to depart early for the NBA and how Coach K really struggled with that initially until he fully embraced it, I think for Jay Wright, it was to the point potentially where he said, you know what, this is a different game and a different circumstance. And for a program that built themselves around culture more than anyone else in college basketball, I really believe that. Everybody talks about culture, but with Villanova, they were about it. And it was especially hard to build that continuity and culture in the modern college game.
Adam, there was once a time when you had a marquee head coach where just his name would bring players to your program. You could think back to Coach K in his heyday. You could think back to John Thompson at Georgetown. And I'm sure that was the case with Jay Wright. Now that he is no longer there, how much more difficult does this make it for this program to recruit top-notch 4- and 5-star talent moving forward?
Well, I think what they've done from a branding perspective is they've made Villanova a national name. So again, there's going to be an immediate pressure on Kyle Neptune and the remaining staff to keep that continuity, to retain the roster. But let's assume they can do that for the most part. They go out and have a successful season next year. Kyle Neptune is the kind of guy who's got the charisma, got the gravitas, where he's going to get out on the road and players are going to embrace him. Recruits are going to embrace him. This is no easy task. Gary talked about it earlier. Following a legend, it's a challenge. I mean, certainly you want the job, but once you get it, you have your hands full. So I think Kyle is going to be able to continue that brand, and I think he's going to do it because he's going to keep everybody, staff, players, incoming recruits. That is his goal. And if they can win next season, I mean, that's almost the difference between him and Scheyer. Is Scheyer had basically a whole year to recruit his team. Kyle's got 10 days. He's got 10 days to re-recruit this roster. If he can do that in 10 days, it's going to set them up to have a very good season in 2022, 2023. And he's going to have a lot to sell on the recruiting trail, because just like Duke, Villanova wasn't Villanova when Jay Wright got there. And frankly, it took Jay Wright growing into the role a little bit. You look at the way he recruited early on and the things he prioritized. He evolved as he went, and he's made Villanova the job it is now.
He's director of scouting for 24/7 Sports, Adam Finkelstein. Adam, we appreciate the insight.
Thank you.
And again, for all things recruiting news for college sports, visit 24/7 Sports. Again, wall-to-wall coverage of recruiting rankings and those transfer portal updates right there. All you need is on 247sports.com.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.